right, so good evening, and we are live. You're welcome back here again and again. And this TIP Annual Conference 2021. I am back again to moderate, right? And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for following. We've had 2 sessions back to back that have left parents literally with their mouth open. Trust me, you just want to go and get replays of all the sessions that you have missed. You don't want to, in literal terms, miss anything that we have done today. You don't want to, because it's been amazing back to back. I don't even know how to explain it. Isaac Onoja came first, and Isaac Onoja came with the fire. A lot of parents have reached out to me to say, I've been weeping, I've been crying, I'm still crying. Hey, don't cry yet. There are lots of people that will still make you cry more. But like Isaac said, it's a good thing that we still have, emotions, right, to cry. And then Dr. Rebecca Harper, all the way from Canada, also came to speak on civility in the home. Oh my goodness, the practicality of that session was something else. I am back here as your chief servant again of the Intentional Parent Academy. And I'm here to bring to you someone that I not only respect, somebody that is my brother. All right. And, when you say that you have bragging rights over some people, yes, this is one of those people. And I'm going to bring him on screen. But before we do that, I am going to play you video testimonials of what we have going on in the academy. And because it's a man that is speaking, I'm going to play you a testimonial of an awesome yada that is also a father. You were thinking that, in the inner circle, we only have women. No, we have a lot of men, lots and lots of men. So let's go on before we bring Dr. Ben, Uncle Ben, popularly known as Uncle Ben, to the screen, and we will, put out his profile and then bring it on. But let's, as we settle in, listen to Mr. Ojiabo.
Wow. My journey so far in the inner circle has been an amazing journey. I was introduced to this great family by my wife initially, but I was so reluctant to be a part of it. But after a few months, I noticed great changes in the lives of my kids, and I was like, no, I just have to be a part of this. And I must confess that ever since I've been a part of the inner circle, my life has never remained the same. The things that I've learned in the inner circle are things that ordinarily I won't learn from anywhere. As a man, as men, we always think that our responsibility is just to provide for the kids. But when you come into the inner circle, you get to understand that it doesn't end at just provision. There are things beyond providing for the family, which you have to be a part of those things, So I really thank Coach Wendy for such an awesome job that she is doing. And I thank the entire TIP family. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you guys, and I thank you for the journey so far. It has been so easy. If you think parenting is difficult, just try the inner circle and your life will never remain the same. Thank you, Coach Wendy. Thank you, the TIP family. I love you all. Bye.
Ben Baldwin. Ben is a multidisciplinary professional and scientist. He is also a clinical hypnopsychotherapist, behavioral change coach, whose area of work focuses mainly on studying human behavior at different levels and especially how childhood experiences play out in adult life and the effects of that. He enjoys helping people make the connection between different life events and how to break free from retrogressive patterns. Through this, he has helped many people rediscover themselves as well as heal from chronic illnesses which they didn't know was a direct consequence of such childhood experiences or trauma. It is this same Ben Priye who believes everyone has a right to love and be loved and everyone deserves their happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, join me welcome Ben Priye Baldwin.
And it is Uncle Ben in the house. Yes, join me welcome Uncle Ben. Like I told you, you know, I like to rave about my own. So this one is my own. So hey, welcome Uncle Ben. I'm going to be off the screen and hey, you have the floor. Thank you so much for doing this. You know, I don't take it for granted.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to be back here this year at the Intentional Parenting Conference, which I've always been a part of. And today, really, I would like to explore with you. This will be more about a reflection, and at the end of this session, you will go deep inside. You will reflect on a lot of things about yourself. You will realize some answers actually to perhaps some questions you've been asking about yourself, maybe why you do some of the things you do or some patterns you didn't recognize. And it is also my desire that at the end of this session, you will experience some inner healing and peace as well. So relax, sit back, go with me, reflect with me, reason with me. Let's do this. So when we talk about, did we really turn out okay? I'm sure you, like me, would have been in conversations where people said, well, so and so was done to us, but we turned out okay. Yeah, my parents hit me all the time, but we turned out okay, and things like that. And this is not about a debate right here. This is a reflection, because I understand where you're coming from, and I wonder if you can come on this journey with me. So to do this, the first thing I would like to do is I would talk about some scenarios and possible choices. And I want you to listen to these scenarios and think about what choice comes to you by default. What would be your default response? And what we're exploring here is the concept of resources and resourcing, which I will talk about a little bit later. And then we'll talk about what that really means, reflect a bit more, and we'll take it from there. So to start, let's just explore some scenarios. Let's say that someone you know is in need and you go all out to help them. You even went the extra mile. But then shortly after this, you require some help that you believe this person can give you. But you didn't get the help. When you called, the person said, oh dear, I would have loved to help, but I won't be around that week or something like that. And then fast forward a few weeks later, you're speaking with a friend who mentions that the other person had invited them to a get-together. So you weren't invited. How would you process this? I mean, what would be your initial reaction? Would it be, oh, this person doesn't regard me? Or what did I do wrong? Or this person is an ingrate after everything I did for them? Or let me just stay on my lane. When someone doesn't take you seriously, don't take them seriously. Or, but this person doesn't really owe me. I helped them because I wanted to, so no issues here. Or you may even think, I wonder if everything is okay. I'll call this person and find out. Or you might also think, I'm sure this must have been an omission. If I have a chance, I'll show up anyway. This is my friend. Or maybe they didn't want to invite me to the event. Damn them. Or maybe they didn't want to invite me to the event, and that's perfectly okay. Helping them when they needed my help doesn't mean they now must please me. So out of all these options, I wonder which of these you had chosen by default, and which of them you might have said, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, as I read this up to you. And here's another scenario to consider. Let's say you're driving on the road and someone just cuts you up in traffic, perhaps nearly hitting your car. What's your initial reaction? What an idiot! Or any other curse words, and you get angry and yell at the driver, probably blasting your horn angrily. Or you silently wish something terrible happens to them before you know it. You're thinking, for hurrying past me, I hope you go and hit a truck somewhere. Or you feel really disenfranchised, as if someone has dominated you and made you a victim. And so maybe you look for who to ring and complain to. Or you wonder if the other driver realizes what they did, and maybe you silently wish they drive a bit safer. Or you hope the driver doesn't have an emergency, and you think, I hope they're all right, and you silently wish them well. Or you're initially startled, but then you think, people do drive carelessly sometimes. I just hope this person realizes what safe driving means. Or you get so angry that your driving style changes for a bit, and for the next 10 minutes, any conversations in the car is just focused on how stupid the other driver is. Or even let's say you get so frustrated, but it's over in a few seconds, as you just say, no, that was dangerous, but then you forget it, you're fine, you move on. Again, which one would be your default approach? Okay, while we think about that, let's look at another scenario. Let's say you walk home and you walk into your 10-year-old's room and you find out that your child has been watching porn. What comes to mind immediately to do? Beat the hell out of the child and remind the child that he or she will not disgrace you because I did not disgrace my own parents. Or scream at the child and remind the child of all the things you've been doing for him or her and how this child is repaying you with bad behavior. Or maybe you call all your siblings, so all the child's aunties and uncles, and tell everyone about it, basically finding a way to shame the child. Who knows, that will make him or her not do this again, maybe even go to the school or something. Or you take 10 deep breaths and you speak with your child calmly and non-judgmentally, knowing that it is normal for a 10-year-old to be curious, and educating the child about dangers, all the different dangers of porn, without making the child get an impression that sex is a devilish thing, because porn and sex are not really the same thing. Or maybe let's say you seek professional help, or you take the child straight to your pastor for deliverance. This child must be possessed of the devil. Or you withdraw all privileges from the child and make the child feel as guilty and unimportant as possible. And this is about punishment. Again, I don't know what came to your mind as your default, your gut response, because that is very important. Make a note of that. And as you think of how you will respond in each of these scenarios, or any of the scenarios that in your day-to-day life, have you wondered where your decisions or choices or your preferences actually are coming from, especially those automatic ones? When was the last time you paid attention to your inner dialogue? You know, that voice in your head. How does it sound? Is it your mom's voice, or your dad's voice, your teacher's voice? Just check. Is that voice constantly telling you what you're doing wrong, or what you could have, should have, would have done? Does that voice constantly compare you with other people? How often does that voice say, well done, you're doing your best, to you? And of course, we can go on, but just notice for a moment what is going on in your mind right now. And as you do that, have you ever wondered how that came to be? How did you come to think the way you do? Where did it start? One key difference in how we make our choices is all about what resource we have available to us. Or shall we say, what resources we have learned to use. When we say resource or resourcing, we're talking about skills, mindsets, competencies. So in Teal Swan's words, she does all this psychotherapy work and healing and things like that. In her words, to resource is to identify and to use something as a resource for something that is wanted. It is to identify something so as to draw upon it when it is needed and wanted. So for example, a specific skill can be resourced to help you deal with a problem, or a specific positive experience can be resourced to help you intentionally change the way you feel. or maybe a specific part of yourself can be resourced in order to deal with a situation in the most effective way possible. Now, the interesting fact is that majority of your internal resources, guess where they come from? They come from home. They are either directly taught by your parents and people around you, or indirectly taught through their behaviors. So that's why a boy who witnessed his mom starve house helps, or even maybe starve him and his siblings as punishment, that boy would become the adult who is comfortable to hold back the pensions of deserving citizens, let's say teachers, for the mere reason that he's got some resentment for a teacher who was mean to him as a child. And now, as an adult, he rationalizes the situation with all sorts of political speak. But in fact, he's only playing out a behavior that mom modeled, which is withhold people's right from them just because you're angry or you're resenting something. That's why that child that witnesses his parents slap and hit them at home easily hits other kids in school, and equally becomes the adult that is very violent and thinks violence is a solution. Or shall we talk about that child that constantly saw his dad shut his mom up? Becomes that adult that doesn't let others have a say, but must dominate every conversation. Or that child that was constantly pitched against others. Haven't you seen this person or that person or that person? Becomes that adult that must win at all costs, even if it means depriving others of what they deserve. So the list goes on and on and on. So let's just ask ourselves one more time, did we really turn out okay? Now, when we talk about these resources, and we also remember that you can't give what you don't have. And we look back at our grandparents, for example, or remember that our parents were very traumatized in many ways. Lots of them witnessed the war. Some are as very young kids. And the war in itself is a traumatic thing. And guess what? No one addressed this. No one helped them heal. So there's a lot of trauma that was innocently transferred to us. For example, have you wondered why many parents would insist that their kids would study a particular course that they choose for you rather than follow your passion? Could that be because they are afraid that you might not be powerful if you're not a doctor or a lawyer or something? Where is that fear coming from? How many of us grew up in an environment where there's a sense of something could go wrong anytime? Think about that. Isn't that a reflection of what happens in a war situation? Or a sense of what if we lose what we have and so on? Have you wondered where that came from? Or let's put it this way. How do you think someone who experienced grave loss and fear and depravity due to war, how do you think that person would view life at a core level? Now look at your own life and see if there are traces of anxiety or insecurity or aggressive behavior or impatience or mistrust or low self-esteem, etc. We can go on. Where do you think these come from? Well, many of us would look at ourselves as we turned out okay because of one or two factors, right? So in our world, the perfect adult, right, according to our programming, is one that is obedient, compliant, has a successful career, is on the right side of the law, has a family, lives in a good house, maybe has some investments, and is religious in many cultures. Yet, this perfect adult could also be having anxiety, insomnia, self-doubt, anger issues, psychosomatic issues, name it. And so I ask, did we really turn out okay? This adult, right, might be one that looks for only one person to provide all their needs. Because, of course, they haven't been taught that no one person can provide all your needs. He or she doesn't understand the principle of social capital or networking, and so expects everything from finances to security to validation to intimacy to problem solving, food, growth, sense of purpose, confidence, sex, sense of power, and so on from one person. That's a lot. But the truth is, one person cannot be your resource and provide all of your needs. Exactly the same way, you cannot be one person's only resource, and you cannot provide all of the needs of everyone. And so, have you wondered where it is you learned to expect so much from people and so little from yourself? Have you wondered why up till now you haven't worked out what you can resource from specific roles and persons in your life? And be honest with that. Or why you still insist on a particular narrative, even in the face of compelling evidence that that isn't possible? And have you wondered where you got that conditioning from? I told you we're going to be really reflecting, and it will be a lot of questions to take you deep. So, to really explore this question, did we really turn out okay? Let us contemplate some of these points together, because I believe it can help us assess ourselves, and of course, where we see gaps, we can honestly and genuinely open ourselves to be healed. And because this is all about self-awareness, it is best to just let whatever comes up come up. There's no need to judge yourself, but rather be honest with yourself. Are you ready? Okay, so let's start. How do you deal with being told no? Do you feel that no equals this person hates or rejects me? Or do you see no as just another option as yes and means nothing other than I can't have this now and it's okay? Do you find it easy to ask for help when you need it? Or do you have a fear of no and so would rather not ask for help? How easy do you find it to apologize and why? Do you apologize because you fear being rejected? Or you fear losing the person? Or do you apologize because you're okay to accept when you're wrong? How do you say no? Do you do it respectfully or do you struggle with it? Do you find it easy and okay to say no? Or do you think it's better to say yes as often as possible? Of course, even when you know you'd rather not. Okay, how do you handle feedback? Do you accept it gracefully or do you get very defensive and feel attacked? Do you see criticism as something to learn from or as a put down of who you are? Do you get emotional or egotistic about it? Or do you go with a cool head and gratitude for at least learning something about yourself from another point of view? Do you practice self-compassion or self-deprecation? So self-deprecation will be the little me or I never get anything right syndrome, that sort of self-talk down. How are you with managing your time? Do you find that you procrastinate a lot or that you're too slow with tasks? Are you always trying to multitask or are you able to give your attention to one thing at a time and effectively too? How easily do you respect and appreciate the feelings of others? Put it this way. How emotionally intelligent are you? Do you make everything about you or are you able to empathize with people and see their perspective? How are you in a group? Do you speak up respectfully and confidently? Or do you avoid being noticed at all costs? Are you comfortable making small talk? Do you find it easy to compliment people? And when you do you genuinely mean it? Okay, how about you receiving compliments? When complimented, do you feel a need to return some compliment immediately because you just feel awkward about being complimented? Or do you let it in? Do you find yourself putting it down immediately? For example, someone says, oh, what a lovely dress. Do you say, oh, thank you, I like my dress? Or, do you let it in or do you go, oh, it wasn't an expensive one, really? Or, oh, I didn't even know what to wear today. Do you make an excuse for that? When someone constantly compliments you, do you feel there has got to be a reason? So let's say there's this one person that's always seen something good about you and complimenting you. Do you go, what does this person want from me? Okay, this person is just trying to make me happy. I'm not sure they mean this. Is that what you do? Or do you let it in because you think you're deserving of compliments? So do you think you're deserving of compliments? How about your relationships? How do you make friends easily? Are you quick to cut off friends at the slightest disagreement? Oh, no, I've cut you out of my life because you make it about yourself. Or are you able to keep good friendships and maintain them? Do you reach out to your friends? And are you happy for them? Or are you the victim all the time? When things happen for your friends, do you genuinely celebrate with them? Or is there an element of it that makes you feel jealous and ask, oh, why not me? Okay, what about taking initiatives or taking risks? Do you struggle with this? Or are you open-minded with things? Do you find it easy to trust your guts? Or do you need people to make decisions for you all the time? How do you handle different perspectives? Do you feel this constant need to argue your stand? Or do you take time to listen to the other person to understand where they're coming from? Do you graciously allow and respect other people's opinion? Or do you get frustrated when yours is not being received? Do you get aggressive or snide about this? I mean, think about your utterances online. Think about your engagement online. How gracefully or respectfully do you conduct yourself in an online debate? Or do you find it so easy to start calling people names and start being sarcastic just because something in you feel cannot handle a differing perspective? Do you find you must impose your opinion on people? And have you wondered, where did you learn that? What about money? Do you trust yourself with money? Do you have a lack mentality, an entitlement mentality, an abundance mentality? Can you be trusted with money? Do you have a consumer mentality or an investment mentality? Do you see yourself deep inside as deserving of a lot of money? Are you open to abundance? How do you feel truly when you think about rich people? Do you find feelings of resentment or discontentment? Or are you inspired? Can you stick to a budget? Or is there always a good reason not to? Do you plan contingencies, or are you the go with the flow kind of person? What about negotiating? Are you able to easily and confidently engage in a negotiation and go for a nice win-win? Or do you approach everything as a win-lose competitive situation? I must win at all costs, even if the other person doesn't. What are your influencing skills like? Can you sell yourself and your strengths with enthusiasm? Or are you constantly playing yourself low? Do you believe in yourself? Or do you somewhat see yourself as less deserving of things? Okay, we talked about being in a social situation and making friends. Now, what about spending time alone? Is this something you have no problems with? Or is this something you avoid by all means? And why? And when you do spend time alone, what do you do most of it? Do you find distractions with devices? Or are you able to be with your thoughts? What are those thoughts predominantly about? Do they make you happy and inspired and feeling good? Or do they make you feel even smaller? Do you get too anxious and worry about everything? Or are you willing to let go of things that you can't control? What are your surviving skills like? So in addition to stuff like cooking and cleaning, what about swimming, mending clothes, making a tent, making a fire, cooking with firewood, setting traps, understanding weather patterns, reading body language, taking safety precautions, and so on? So I ask again, did we really turn out okay? Or is there an opportunity to heal and get better? Let that sink in for a minute. Because when we talk about intentional parenting, we are talking about doing better. It's not about the status quo. The older generation would most likely do things slightly differently. They were doing it in this day and age. With our current technology, abilities, and our knowledge, I think they would do things differently. I mean, we spend about 5 years, in some cases more, to learn our vocations, right? People spend at least 4 to 5 years to study engineering, and then they start learning more on the job. And still we make mistakes in our jobs and we keep learning. Now compare this with parenting, where no one gave you a manual. I don't know about you, but no one gave me a manual. Where no one told you that sometimes you'll be so stressed out that you feel like running away. Where no one taught you how to manage your own stress and emotions as a parent. No one taught you that there's a lot of inconvenience in being a parent, and that child does not owe you for your sacrifices because it is part of the job. I mean, no child has to be born. No one taught you any of these things. And yet you are doing the most crucial of jobs. You're actually raising a society, which means if you don't like the society you currently live in, the only proper way to change it is to change the narrative in how you're raising the next generation. You and I are creating the future of humans, the entire humans. That's the future we are creating through the task of raising these humans we call children. Have you thought about it? And the thing is, childhood is short. Childhood is short, which means you don't even have such a long time to do your job properly before it is handed over to peers. And in many cases, the peers are also people who haven't been properly parented. And if we haven't planted deep roots of excellence and balance and wholeness in our kids, how will they withstand the peers? How will they influence them? A lot of issues we see in society today are directly linked to people's childhood. I don't know how many people have studied Donald Trump's childhood, for example, and then seeing how that played out in his behavior as an adult. And this is just one out of many, 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 many examples. That boss of yours that is very mean and never recognizes your good work, but is always picking fault, is simply an adult whose childhood was full of criticism and who never got lots of well done as a child. And there's that adult who could never be happy with their own achievement until someone else validates them. That adult that just won't take a stand for themselves. That adult is simply a child who was often told, do it for mommy or do it for daddy. They were never told, did you enjoy doing that? Good for you, well done. That adult was never told as a child, you should be proud of yourself, but rather heard more of, I'm proud of you. And there's nothing wrong in telling your child you're proud of them. However, remember to first make it about them being proud of themselves, and then adding, and daddy or mommy is also proud of you. You can even link it to their own sense of achievement. For example, something that I say to my kids, I say, I'm so proud of you, and that's because you are proud of yourself and because you did so well. That very indecisive adult that you know about is simply that adult who wasn't allowed much choices as a child. And when he or she did have any of those choices, it was often overridden or criticized. Mommy says, oh, which one, what do you want? Oh, I want this. Then mommy overrides it instantly or criticize the choice. And there's that adult who can't stand up for themselves, who can't say no, and so gets taken for granted a lot. That one who, as a school kid, they would give away most of their belongings or lose them. Do you know what? That actual adult is a child that was forced to share their stuff against his or her will and maybe emotionally manipulated, whose no was, when they say no, was never validated or respected as a child. Such adults also become they become prey for all sorts of abuse at different stages of their life, just because they can't say no or stand up for themselves. They fear saying no. There are lots of other examples I can give, but maybe let me do just one more. So that adult who struggles to feel love in relationships and who seems to never feel lovable is often that child who got told, well, on the extreme side, stuff like, no one is going to love you like this. Or on the other side, got told, oh, daddy loves you so much, no one will love you like I do. And when such things are said, they are very well intended. However, the subconscious mind works really differently. Of course, we all know you cannot give what you don't have. So all these resources we've been talking about, you may wonder why you're not able to do some of them. Maybe that's because you just don't have them. But the good news is, even though you can't give what you don't have, you can get what you don't have. That is why it's always all about the humility and willingness to unlearn and relearn. We even now know that many, many, many autoimmune diseases are as a result of childhood issues. But let me not go into that for now. I tend to get a bit geeky about these things. However, let's just say whatever you do, pay attention to this because we're talking about resources. Whatever we do with our kids either adds a resource to them or creates a resource gap for them. Think about that for a moment. Whatever you do with your kids either adds a resource to them or creates a resource gap for them. And of course, we already know that you can't really be a better parent without first becoming a better person. Why? Because as you are learning, or as you are unlearning first some programming that you got as a child, you are becoming a better person. You are discovering that you could have access to more resources. So we can really say that it is first about reparenting yourself. And reparenting is simply resourcing. So adding new resources to your bank, new behaviors, new perspectives, new mindsets, new ways of viewing and dealing with things, new belief systems. With parenting, you really find out who you are and who you want to be. And you have an incentive to do the work you need to do on yourself. Or you risk passing on to your own kids. You risk passing on your own trauma and pain onto your children. How many times, you think about it, how many times have you done something and you thought to yourself, gosh, I just sounded like my mom, or I just sounded like my dad? And usually when that happens, it wouldn't be a behavior that you enjoyed when your mom or your dad did it. And have you wondered why that happened? I learned a particular lesson that has made such a big difference in my life as a parent. And that lesson is this: the biggest gift you can give your children is your own happiness. Your own happiness. Because when you're able to be a happy person inside, you radiate that happiness and kindness in many other things. And you can't be happy without resolving your own inner conflicts. The second biggest gift you can give your own children is the skill to manage their own emotions. The reason you don't know what to do in some situations, other than to externalize your fear in the form of anger, is because no one taught you. No one taught you how to manage your own emotions. As a child, you were made to feel your emotions didn't matter. You weren't allowed to express them. If you cried, you were told to stop crying. No one was interested in understanding your feelings. Rather, you might have been called a crybaby, or too dramatic, or too noisy, or too troublesome, or stubborn, etc. But you know, as a child, what you felt each time was real. And those times you felt, oh, maybe I'm broken, maybe everything is my fault, maybe I'm really no good, or any of these things that created that sense of shame. This is what we call the abandonment issue. That is where you feel a sense of abandonment due to your feelings being ignored. So if as an adult you find yourself agreeing to things you don't want to, or you find that you feel the need to over-explain yourself to people, you now know where that's coming from. It's a classic sign that you are abandoning yourself. Remember, children naturally make life all about themselves, which is why kids think, if my parent is happy, then I'm a wonderful kid. If my parent is not happy, something is wrong with me. And so children will blame themselves for what they don't even understand. And as parents, we unintentionally make it worse by saying things like, do you want to make mommy angry? Or do this, do it for mommy. Or mommy's so proud of you, as I've talked about before. These things contribute to making the kids think that it's their job to make mommy and daddy happy. But this shouldn't be. They rather should be taught that things happen in life, and mommy's happiness is mommy's responsibility. They should be taught that nothing is wrong with them. They have a right to love and be loved. Every morning in the car on my way to school run, I get my kids to put their hands on the chest and go, I matter, I'm significant, I'm enough, life loves me, I am lovable. I make them say that as a way to let them really know that nothing is wrong with them. And here's how kids' minds work. Let's say dad is hardly at home. The kid thinks, if I was enough for daddy, he would be home to play with me. And you know what happens to kids in such moments? They develop some survival mechanism, and then that could become a bad habit or self-sabotage system in the long run. According to Dr. Gabor Mate, anything you think is wrong with you as an adult started as a survival mechanism in childhood. And this has now been shown scientifically to be the source of addiction. We can't talk about addiction without talking about dopamine release. Dopamine is the reward center in the brain. When you do something and you feel like doing it again because of the dopamine spike. Dopamine release is a big deal. This reward center in the brain, in childhood, it is developed through praise and positive affirmations and a sense of achievement. And the more kids get this, the more they develop their dopamine centers, and they will not rely on other things to get that dopamine release. You can even reinforce some of these affirmations when the kid misbehaves. So let's say, how about replacing "you're so stupid" with "no, you're not a stupid person. Yes, you have done something stupid, but you are not a stupid person. And that's why I'm hoping you learn from this, because I know you know how to learn things fast." Now, see, I said this in what would be a typical anger tone. Why can't you choose better words for your kids even when you're angry? Or let's put it this other way. Why should you choose a better tone or better words even when you're angry? Imagine if you were told this sort of thing as a child. Or for example, replacing stuff like "you just never listen." Replace that with, let's say, "smart people like you know how to listen and use their brains. And I know you have a brain, a good one too." This is a line I use with my daughter. She's nearly 11 now. It works because even when you're saying that, you are programming the behavior you want, not the one you don't want. I think I said this before in this forum. The mind doesn't process "don't." Anyway, let's move on from that. The other thing I find is that people tend to use the word "why" a lot. When you say to your child, "Why don't you ever listen?" Well, whenever we use the word "why," the unconscious mind will find reasons for it. So when you ask a child, "Why are you so annoying?" bear in mind all you've said to the subconscious mind is, go and find all the reasons why this child should behave in an annoying way and make it available to this child. So guess what? The child becomes even more annoying and wonders to themselves, "I don't know why I'm like this." So how about becoming even more intentional in your words when something doesn't go well? How about prioritizing positive programming and resourcing? Prioritize that over expressing your anger. Do you know that your child will be more effective and balanced that way? So yes, dopamine release is a big deal. It is that thing that makes us want to repeat anything that makes us feel good. We see in addiction patients, both substance and non-substance addiction, right? We know what substance addiction is, but there is non-substance addiction, like addiction to your phone, addiction to social media, addiction to shopping, addiction to eating, addiction to sugar, addiction to gossip, addiction to drama. These are all addictions. So we see in addiction patients that the dopamine receptors in the brain are not well developed. There's a Netflix series I would recommend to every parent. It's called Babies. Go watch the Netflix series Babies, and you can see a lot about what the home environment can tell about a child and how a child can learn. We can now accurately predict addiction and the levels of addiction just by getting an insight into the environment a child is being raised in. We now know that adverse childhood creates this potential for addiction and addictive behavior. And that is because through the addictive behavior, the person gets a dopamine release. Gamblers, the addiction to gambling is that time between when they've started and when they're waiting whether they win or lose. That's when they have the highest dopamine spike. It's been studied. So there's a sense of achievement and a freedom that addicts feel when they engage in the addictive behavior. And mind you, feeling is only a chemical reaction in the body. So no matter what anyone is addicted to, the question is not why the addiction. The question is, what is the pain and why the pain? And where did that pain first occur? Because as you are processing this pensively now, allowing your mind to take you to that moment where you felt stuck and powerless the first time, or where you felt unheard or without a voice, or as if you didn't matter, or where you felt unwanted. Now notice the other different moments in your life where it repeated, or where other issues arose just because you were avoiding a repeat of that unwanted situation. And notice how many people didn't understand why you had that outburst or why you behaved the way you did. And maybe even you didn't know it at the time, but you can see it now, can't you? Notice how that behavior that you might call addictive is also helping you to avoid that feeling. And as you do this, you also realize that it's time to take responsibility. It's not about blaming yourself, because it really is not your fault. You only didn't know any better. And now that you do know better, are you going to take responsibility? Are you going to allow healing to happen by reprogramming yourself, by reparenting yourself, and resourcing? And by taking responsibility, I don't mean taking responsibility for what happened to you, but rather, I mean exercising your right to choose a response, your ability to choose a different response to that situation. So, your response ability, your ability to respond favorably to what you now know, your ability to choose a response now that allows you to make deep changes now. And it doesn't matter where it is that you experienced that thing that caused that abandonment issue or made you still believe that somewhere people won't care about your feelings or whatever that was. I would like you to know that it is not your fault. It is not your fault. It is not your fault. It has never been your fault. It is not your fault that whatever caused your mom or dad to feel stressed out and unhappy happened to them. It is not your fault that people around you were mean. It is not your fault that your parents separated. It is not your fault that mom or dad was emotionally unavailable. Whatever it is, I would like you to consider now that it is not your fault. The same way that it is not your child's fault that you're going through anything you're going through. You can let this sink in deeply now. Because I wonder where you're choosing to start this change and to what extent you will allow this change to extend beyond different future experiences. And among all the different learnings from today, I don't know which one of them you're allowing now to ripple into different aspects of your being, deep, changing, healing, resolving, and making new connections that allow you to completely stop old patterns and start wiring in new patterns as you prioritize your choices and how you choose to respond to things going forward. Or to what extent you now really want to actually turn out okay. As you allow these words, which are already going inside, to become words that help you heal. So, a simple conclusion is not whether or not we turned out okay, because we can now make it be how much are you choosing now to turn out okay and help your kids turn out okay. And I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Happy to take some questions now. Are there any questions coming through? So the next 10, 11 minutes, I'm happy to take any questions you may have from what we've discussed. I'm not seeing any questions, Wendy. I hope I'm still live anyway. Wendy. Okay, so if there aren't any questions from anybody, I've seen some things in the chat here. Oh, okay. How can I make, okay, there's some questions. Right. How do I make my spouse see the dangers of his style of parenting? Cynthia, thanks for that question. The first thing, the dangers of the style of your spouse means that your spouse needs some healing to happen, and so may not see what you're saying because damage will damage others anyway. So one of the things you can do, which I find works, is your demonstration of a change in your own style, the demonstration of an effectiveness. Because if you yourself become a better person through what you're learning, which makes you become a better parent, your spouse is going to notice that you are a better person, and good always overcomes, right? So I would say do some work on yourself, because that's the best testimony to share. So if it's clear to you that you're able to say to your spouse, oh, this thing I used to do, I'm over with it now because I've now realized where that started from, and I've worked on it. That's the best way to get the person to think about themselves. Okay, someone asked, is there a balance between these reflections and our temperament? Our temperament is just a conglomeration of all these, of the resources and where we're coming from. Put together becomes a temperament. It's not fixed. Your temperament can change, just like your personality. They can change. Some of it is DNA coded, because if for example, if your mom was used to screaming and shouting and fighting as a child, remember for that to happen, there's got to be some cells that code that information. So the brain will think that this is required for her survival, and so will be transferred as part of the DNA bits that get transferred to the offspring. However, this is only about 50% of that will happen when a baby is born. But as you grow, those things can change, and they change through your own environment and upbringing and stuff. So as an adult now, those things, you can change all of them, and you change them by being honest with yourself about your own resource gaps and working on that. Okay. Reparenting yourself. I think the easiest way I would answer this question is make your way to Wendy's Inner Circle group. I think I would say that's one of the things I would say. The other thing I would say in that regard is start to show yourself some self-compassion and self-love. Start observing the voice in your head, and if it's always critical, start to change that. Start to be your own cheerleader. Start to look at yourself in the mirror and look for what's right with you, not what's wrong with you. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, I have a right to be here. I have a right to love and be loved. Enough, I matter. Say those nice words to yourself. There's another question I see here about, my son is too hyperactive. Sometimes he does things that honestly need spanking. Okay, nothing ever needs spanking. Let's put that out. Nothing ever needs spanking. If you're saying something needs spanking, what you're saying is you are accepting that you lack the resource to find better ways to engage with a child. So that's your problem, not the child's. When I talk to him gently, he gets more hyper. I don't know how old the boy is, but if this is a toddler, you might be using too many words. The reason a child's head is smaller than an adult's is because their brain is smaller. The only part of the brain that is fully developed is the part for survival, the part that we share with animals. That's why toddlers will naturally behave more animalistic than humans. Their logical center, the frontal one here, is not as developed. So all that logical conversation you engage in is not happening. They can't process it well. They only process things by how it feels, which is why if you are spanking them and they hate the feeling of spanking, they avoid the thing. But all you've done is you've conditioned them. You've not taught them. You've not trained them. You've only conditioned them like you do to animals. You've dumped their creative center. So what you can do with the child, number one, model. Any behavior the child sees you do consistently, they will do. Number two, turn it into play. Whatever your children learn through play. So if you're too serious, you are not achieving anything. except you want to damage that child and stunt the child and create an adult with some of the issues we're talking about. So you got to work on your own patience and know that a child is a child. And when we say a child is hyperactive, it's a good thing. Would you rather have a child that you're hoping can speak up and move? It's not a bad thing to be hyperactive. Don't put labels on the child. What you're calling a hyperactive child may be a child that is energetic and is a good thing. So engage with the child better. And if you must talk at age appropriate levels. If it's a toddler, you don't need to use more than 3-word sentences rather than a full string of sentence. Okay, let me see if I can take a few more. Is it possible to change our behavior after being like this for a long? Oh, yes, absolutely. I've already talked about that. If one grew with an abusive aunt and now an adult, one is told by friends that she's always looking for attention. What's the solution? Be honest with yourself. Realize that what happened to you is not your fault. Go deep inside and ask yourself, what is it that I'm looking for when I'm seeking attention? Don't be defensive about it. Be honest with it, and then heal that wound. Heal that wound by forgiving yourself for all that you've blamed yourself. You've blamed yourself in the past for, if I don't seek attention, I won't be liked. Now, you got to give yourself some self-love. You've got to be kind, really, to yourself. That's one way to start that healing. And I'm rushing a little bit here because there are a number of questions.
Okay, here. Sorry for. I hope you can hear me now,
yes,
Uncle Ben. Sorry. Okay, I was a bit cut off by the internet. I'm back on. Maybe I could help you moderate some of the questions because I can see that the questions are coming in barrages and they're throwing them at you and all of that. So I would just bring up some of the questions upstream. Please, if you had asked the question before, we're going to take 5 questions and then we let Uncle Ben go to rest. If you have a question, I would suggest that you put it on the in the comment section while we take a bit of a break, and then we would look at those questions and answer them. So sorry for getting in here, again like that. Just like I always say, we don't make the internet services here. All right, but it's fine. Thank you so much, Uncle Ben. While you were talking, there were lots and lots of deep reflections. I
was going to say, I know we aim to keep to time on the dot.
Yes, go ahead.
But I'm happy to go 5 more minutes if everyone is okay with that, just so we can take more questions. Oh, Wendy's frozen again.
Thank you so much, Uncle Ben. Thank you, please, for offering that. Okay, so while your questions just come up, we just let our facilitator catch a bit of, his breath, and then we'll play this testimonial for you while we wait, and then we would get it from there.
Hello,
yes,
everybody.
Please.
My name is Violet.
All right, so while we're waiting for your
you
questions to come in, I can see the questions coming in. I'm hoping that we'll bring up this video so that we'll listen in, and then Uncle Ben would also catch some breath, and then we'll allow him some
set
time.
up goals to achieve. I've been able to set up goals every year. The first year we set up goals, myself and my children and my husband, and before mid-year we had achieved half of those things we wrote, and I was blown away. Okay, the inner circle also helped me with connection tools on how to get closer to your children. Connection tools, by the way, are activities that you do that help you build a stronger bond with your children. Tools like going swimming, having picnics, having ritual talks with your children, and other things that you do together as a family that makes you draw closer to your children. And because of that, my children have been able to draw closer to me and tell me about their challenges, tell me things that they never told me before. In fact, I was like, why didn't you tell me all these things before? And they were like, Mommy, it's just that you've changed. And I was like, really? Yes, that's what the inner circle does for you. It changes you. It changes you, not only in your relationship with your children, it also helps you in your relationship with every other person around you and your marital relationship. Oh, yes, we have marriage classes. Mind you, our coach has an awesome husband who is a marriage coach and a marriage counselor. And she drags him in, with her and makes him teach us about how to have healthy marital relationships. So the inner circle gives you a total family, a wholesome family, a complete family. So it's not only about your relationship with your children, it also helps you with your relationship with your husband and every other person around you. Yes, the inner circle changes you. It helps you understand your children's temperament. It helps you understand your own temperament. It takes you back to your past and helps you to mend the hurts, your parenting hurts, things that you project on your children, things that you're mirroring that you don't understand. Yes, your past visits you in your parenting journey. And it helps you, the inner circle helps you, takes you a walk through that your past and helps you heal through from parental hurts. So I've been able to understand that. I've been able to understand the learning styles of my children. I've been able to put structure in my home. Before, mornings were crazy. I used to call it a rat race. In the morning, screaming, shouting to make them get ready for school. But now, because of structure, I only need to wake my children up. They know exactly what to do. They have checklists. They have and they are ready by 6 a.m. without stress, without, the whole place, burning up and all that. So the inner circle has done all this for me. The inner circle has also been able to help me to get more knowledge to teach my children soft skills, teach them conflict resolution skills, teach them social networking skills. The inner circle has also helped me to build a social roadmap, a network for my children, so that they know the healthy, relevant adults that are around them to be able to talk to when they have issues. You cannot do all. The inner circle helps you, teaches you, makes you understand that you cannot be everything to your child. Because if you're building a mansion, it's not only one man that builds a mansion. The inner circle makes you know that when you're building a mansion, the architect comes in, the quantity surveyor comes in, the builders come in, the tilers come in, every other person comes in. So you build that network for your children and helps you, stay on track. It gives you that community where you can share things with, and there will be no form of insults, there will be no form of condemnation, and it puts you in track. It's not like there won't be challenges. There will be challenges in your journey, but you will know exactly what to do and where to go. You would not be confused in your journey. I will tell you, the best thing you can do for yourself is to join the inner circle. It will help you in your marriage. I want to tell you something. In the inner circle, when I joined the inner circle, my husband wasn't part of it. But when he saw the changes that were occurring in my home, my husband joined the inner circle. And he's with me now. It has been an amazing journey. I think he can tell the rest of the story. But that's what I want to tell you now, is that you should join in 2022. It will be the best decision you've ever made, apart from receiving Christ as your Savior and probably getting married. Joining the inner circle will be one of the best decisions you have made. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Are you there, Wendy? Looks like you've frozen again. Okay, while that happens, let me answer the question about how do I deal with my 5-year-old daughter who refuses to defend herself when being bullied. She says her bully will get hurt if she defends herself. Well, first of all, never make her feel weak. Let her know, teach her to believe in herself. Teach her to know that the bully is not bullying her because she's weak. The bully is bullying her because he is hurting. He is in pain. Something is not right on his side of the fence. My daughter recently, of course, she's been going through all of these learnings. So she cut her hair, and when we did the haircut, somehow it wasn't properly done the way it normally got done. But she said no, leave it that way, because she chose what she wanted. She got to school, and someone taunted her and said, "Oh, your haircut is so horrible." In the past, she would have broken down to cry. What she did, she looked at the person and she went, "Oh dear, you must feel really horrible about yourself for you to feel the need to say horrible things to people." And when she said that, this bully literally deflated. So teach your child that people's bullish behavior is not about her, it's about them. And so that and teach her that the easiest way to stand up for herself, number one, never let the words of a bully in. If someone is saying mean things to you, let's say that I give you this cup. If you don't accept it from me, who owns it? Who has it? It's me. So if someone says horrible things to you and you don't take them in, you don't believe them, you won't be affected by them. The word still belongs to the person saying them. So teach your child that. Teach your child self-regulation. Teach your child there's no need to be violent with a bully, but standing up for herself is saying, what you're saying or doing to me doesn't matter to me. It's not my problem. It's your problem. And when she does that eyeball to the bully is going to deflate. Okay. I'm waiting for Wendy to be back. There's another one. How can one manage the fear of being successful? Is it part of advanced childhood effect? Oh, yes, it is part of advanced childhood effect. That the fear of being successful is part of that. And one of the ways to manage that, to deal with that, you don't need to manage it. You get rid of it by actually look at your life. The mere fact that you are here to ask this question means you're already successful. You successfully typed a question. You successfully grew from a child to the level you are now. You successfully went through school. So you have evidence to prove that you are successful. So what is there to fear? And now but ask yourself what the real fear is. Is it a belief that says that successful people will go to hell, or successful people are this and that? Find out the real feeling, the real fear, and face that by changing what you believe about that. One of the things I say to my clients is, in any situation, if you don't like how you feel, ask yourself one simple question: what must I be believing about myself now to feel the way I feel? For me to feel this way, what am I believing about myself? Or for me to feel this way, what am I believing about this person, if it's an interaction? Or for me to feel the way I feel, what am I believing about the situation? So if you ask yourself the question about what am I believing about, what must I believe about this for me to feel this way, that will take you to the core belief that needs to be changed. It is now limiting you. That's why it's appearing like fear. But of course, with fear, it can be false evidence appearing real, or it can be forget all of that and really stand up and face it. Welcome back, Wendy. How can one begin the process of healing from wrong parenting? Are there any specific areas to confront? I've already answered this question, Ada. The very first place to start is start being your own cheerleader. Change that voice in your head from critical.
Thank you, Uncle Sam. Oh, the network today.
It's okay. I've been answering questions. So, Ada, you start by being your own cheerleader. Compliment yourself. Tell yourself, well done. Find the good in yourself. That's one way to start. Okay, Adenike says, how do you encourage a 14-year-old boy that's always emotional when he's been wronged by his siblings? I don't know if I understand this question, but if you're saying that this boy gets emotional when his siblings annoy him, there's a learned behavior here. And don't say to him, oh, man up, oh, boys don't cry and all that. By doing that, you're installing the wrong things there. So when he's emotional, you say to him, it's clear to me that this is hurting you. Tell me exactly what's going on in your head. Get your child to tell you what's going on in his head. Let him speak. Let him express what in his mind is in his mind, and then help him to reframe it. So if he says things like, they're always mean to me, they don't like me, and then you can reframe it by giving me evidence. Say, oh, you feel like they don't like you now, and that's because you're hurting about this. However, you know that they like you. They're just being silly or something like that. Reframe the situation, and then empower him to believe in himself. Create affirmations for him. Give him more well done. Let him, if he's breaking down at the slightest sign of wrongdoing to him, that means he doesn't believe in himself too much. Also, we mustn't forget that at 14-year-old, there's a lot of hormonal gymnastics going on in the body. He doesn't know if he's a boy or a man, and so on. Again, help him through that, because it might be a challenge. Clara is asking the affirmation I tell my kids. Okay, it's simple. It's I matter. I am enough. I am significant. I am important. I have a right to love and be loved. I am lovable. I am enough. Okay. The woman who grew up with an abusive aunt ended up getting married to an abusive and absentee husband, and that's the way. What's the way for her? Yeah, that makes sense. These are repeating patterns, right? And these repeating patterns happen because at a core level, the subconscious doesn't work logically. So it's used to that thing, and we'll keep recreating it until the cycle breaks. So this person, I would suggest they get help from a qualified therapist to deal with their inner child trauma. If she's thinking of leaving the marriage, that will be her decision to make. It might be best for her because you don't want to keep getting re-traumatized. It doesn't help you heal. So whether it's a temporary separation or divorce, that will be her decision to make. But she should prioritize her own safety. But most importantly, get help, professional help, to deal with those problems. Next question.
I'm guessing that that's the last of the questions that I can see here.
Right, there's one.
That's it.
One.
That's about the question.
Let me take this one about. She said,
Okay.
I put my baby in a crèche at 1 year, 1 month because of stress of taking her to work.
Okay.
2 weeks later, I noticed fear on her face, withdrawn. I found the nanny expresses anger uncontrollably. What can I do? Take your child away from that crèche immediately and find a better one.
Very key.
Yeah, immediately. I recommended that everyone please watch that Netflix series called Babies. In the very first episode, you will understand why you should not subject your child to that sort of environment. Okay, so yeah, I have enjoyed this very much. Thank you. You know where to find me. I'm always on the intentional parenting group, and I answer questions from there from time to time. You can also find me. When is it all right to put up my website on there if anyone wants to get in touch, which would be calmmind.co.uk.
Oh yes, please, please help us chat it. We're going to put it up on the screen so that you can follow Uncle Ben. You know, like I always say, if you have to pay any of these coaches individually, you might not be able to really afford them. So yes, and like I always say, this is not free. If you got value from this session, hit the like button. Hit the like button if you got value from this session. Just look at that YouTube video you're
Wendy is frozen again. Well, thank you everybody for your kind words. I think she was going to encourage everybody to share more of what you've learned. Invite more people to the conference. I mean, I'm only speaker number 3, so there's 27 more. So the more we get the word out, the more we're going to help others learn. So thank you for your time. I think the session would be ending now, or whenever Wendy finds herself back. Okay, so thank you. I've enjoyed it. And the website is www.calmmind.co.uk. So that's CALMIND.co.uk. and you can send me an email through there as well. Okay. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
Hey, I am so sorry. I guess that that was what the internet brought to us. But thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Remember to take screenshots and remember to actually please, who took note of the website? We're going to share the website on the Telegram. We're going to share the website on the Telegram for you to also take note of. Nothing to worry about. And we will also share details, right? We'll also share details of everything, right? That you got to your email. So for everybody who registered, you will get all the details. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope I can still be seen. Thank you so much for hanging in. Tomorrow we're going to be live in the morning. The first session is at 10 a.m. You don't want to miss any of these sessions. Session number 1 is at 10 a.m. Session number 2 is at 12 a.m. Stephen Lin will be speaking from the US. And then we have 4 p.m. Tonyo Gunkami and 6:30 p.m. Fina and Uncle Lobe at 7:30. You want to be at these sessions, all right? Thank you so much, Precious, and thank you for hanging in there. All right, we had a bit of a network challenge today, but all in all, we had fun today. We had an amazing time. For those of you who are asking about the inner circle, please look at details on our screen and give us details on and share with us. Just say that you want to join the inner circle, sending us a chat, and we'll send you details. Trust me, you want to be there. It's actually been an amazing day. All right. By the time a lot of the speakers, the 3 speakers spoke today, at every point in time, I was moved to tears because I know that these are the things that we actually would like parents to understand. I am very glad that we're pushing this narrative further and further, and I'm very glad that you are here listening. I hope you're ready for tomorrow. I hope you are ready to also tell the world that there's something happening here. We are having the TIP annual conference, and it's a yearly event. This year's own has come with a banger. All right. So if you're still here, like this video, share with family system, right? Let them get into the system as we round up today. See you tomorrow at exactly 10 a.m. The session that is starting tomorrow is going to be done by someone that is also a big brother to me. You don't want to miss that session. Trust me, you want to be here. See you tomorrow and have an amazing night.
Wow. My journey so far in the inner circle has been an amazing journey. I was introduced to this great family by my wife initially, but I was so reluctant to be a part of it. But after a few months, I noticed great changes in the lives of my kids, and I was like, no, I just have to be a part of this. And I must confess that ever since I've been a part of the inner circle, my life has never remained the same. The things that I've learned in the inner circle are things that I won't learn from anywhere. You know, as a man, as men, we always think that our responsibility is just to provide for the kids. But when you come into the inner circle, you will get to understand that it doesn't end at just provision. There are things beyond providing for the family, which you have to be a part of those things, you know. So I really thank Coach Wendy for such an awesome job that she is doing, and I thank the entire TIP family. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you guys, and I thank you for the journey so far. It has been so easy. If you think parenting is difficult, just try the inner circle and your life will never remain the same. Thank you, Coach Wendy. Thank you, the TIP family. I love you all. Bye.
Hello, everybody. My name is Violet Ojabo. Hello, everybody. My name is Violet Ojabo, and I'm here to talk to you about my journey in the inner circle. I joined the inner circle in the year 2020, and it has been an amazing journey so far. First of all, when I joined, I didn't know what to expect, but the inner circle made us set up goals to achieve. I've been able to set up goals every year. The first year, we set up goals, myself and my children and my husband. And before mid-year, we had achieved half of those things we wrote. And I was blown away. Okay? The inner circle also helped me with connection tools on how to get closer to your children. Connection tools, by the way, are activities that you do that help you build a stronger bond with your children. Tools like going swimming, having picnics, having ritual talks with your children, and other things that you do together as a family that makes you draw closer to your children. And because of that, my children have been able to draw closer to me and tell me about their challenges, tell me things that they never told me before. In fact, I was like, why didn't you tell me all these things before? And they were like, Mommy, it's just that you've changed. And I was like, really? Yes, that's what the inner circle does for you. It changes you. It changes you not only in your relationship with your children, it also helps you in your relationship with every other person around you and your marital relationship. Oh yes, we have marriage classes. Mind you, our coach has an awesome husband who is a marriage coach, a marriage counselor, and she drags him in, with her and makes him teach us about how to have healthy marital relationships. So the inner circle gives you a total family, a wholesome family, a complete family. So it's not only about your relationship with your children, it also helps you with your relationship with your husband and every other person around you. Yes, the inner circle changes you. It helps you understand your children's temperament. It helps you understand your own temperament. It takes you back to your past and helps you to mend the hurts, your parenting hurts, things that you project on your children, things that you're mirroring that you don't understand. Yes, your past visits you in your parenting journey. And it helps you, the inner circle helps you, takes you a walk through that your past and helps you heal through from parental hurts. So I've been able to understand that. I've been able to understand the learning styles of my children. I've been able to put structure in my home. Before, mornings were crazy. I used to call it a rat race. In the morning, screaming, shouting to make them get ready for school. But now, because of structure, I only need to wake my children up. They know exactly what to do. They have checklists. They have and they are ready by 6 a.m. without stress, without, the whole place, burning up and all that. So the inner circle has done all this for me. The inner circle has also been able to help me to get more knowledge to teach my children soft skills, teach them conflict resolution skills, teach them social networking skills. The inner circle has also helped me to build a social roadmap, a network for my children, so that they know the healthy, relevant adults that are around them to be able to talk to when they have issues. You cannot do all. The inner circle helps you, teaches you, makes you understand that you cannot be everything to your child. Because if you're building a mansion, it's not only one man that builds a mansion. The inner circle makes you know that when you're building a mansion, the architect comes in, the quantity surveyor comes in, the builders come in, the tilers come in, every other person comes in. So you build that network for your children and helps you, stay on track. It gives you that community where you can share things with, and there will be no form of insults, there will be no form of condemnation, and it puts you in track. It's not like there won't be challenges. There will be challenges in your journey, but you will know exactly what to do and where to go. You will not be confused in your journey. I will tell you, the best thing you can do for yourself is to join the inner circle. It will help you in your marriage. I want to tell you something. In the inner circle, when I joined the inner circle, my husband wasn't part of it. But when he saw the changes that were occurring in my home, my husband joined the inner circle. And he's with me now. It has been an amazing journey. I think he can tell the rest of the story. But that's what I want to tell you now, is that you should join in 2022. It will be the best decision you've ever made, apart from receiving Christ as your Savior and probably getting married. Joining the inner circle will be one of the best decisions you have made. Thank you. Bye-bye.